Prosperity, love, light, and abundance. Beautiful people, how are we all doing? Hopefully, we all are doing exceptionally well. Remember to stay safe and mindful as always. I know we got the glare going on with the glasses. We're just gonna rock with it. Before we get started, let's cleanse our space. Setting the intention to welcome only the best of energies into our space. It's going out now. I don't have my lighter. Just take a moment to reset, align, allow yourself to take in the right vibrations so that you're able to grab whatever it is you need from this experience. Thank you so much for tapping in with me. If you can, please be sure to hit that like button, comment down below if you gathered something you want to share it. Just comment to let me know that you're here, and subscribe so that we can continue to grow as a family, as tribe. So I'm going to try to keep this short because I'm running out of space on my stuff. I gotta, deal with that. So we're going to try to keep this one short. I just wanted to insert a bit more from the Let's Make a Slave pages that I shared in my last session, because this is the very system that we implement on one another now today. The way that we treat one another, the way that we see one another, the way that we occupy and hold space literally comes up because of this here. And the sooner that we can all grab a better comprehension level and understanding, bearing the emotional intelligence behind what it takes to actually treat one another as human beings and as family and friends and community, the sooner we can evolve and dissolve and evolve the very fibers of nonsense that were implemented upon us since the dawn of time almost. This is that old. This was actually created by Willie Lynch. This came from a handbook, so to speak. And the origin and development of a social being called the Negro by Willie Lynch. These actual pages or chapter is called, if you can't see my eyeballs, please bear with me. I've been fidgeting with the light for a minute now, and this is the best I can get it. This one's called Let's Make a Slave. I went over the first page with you guys in the last one, so we're going to just carry forward. I was sharing the 6 cardinal principles for making a Negro. And now we're going to go into the actual phases of how this will look and try to go over as quickly as possible so we can kind of shed a little bit of light. So diving right in. Cardinal principles for making a Negro. For the fear that our future generations may not understand the principles of breaking both horses and men, we lay down the art, for if we are to sustain our basic economy, we must break free of the beast together. The nigger and the horse, we understand that short-range planning and economics result in periodic economic chaos, so that to avoid turmoil in the economy, it requires us to have breadth and depth in long-range comprehensive planning, articulating both skill and sharp perception. We lay down the following principles for long-range comprehension economic planning. Little did they understand, they understood that this planning would have an effect for many, many, many generations. Keep that in mind. Both horse and niggers are no good to the economy in the wild of natural state. Both must be broken and tied together for orderly production, for orderly futures. Special and particular attention must be paid to female and the youngest offspring. Both the crossbreed to produce a variety and division of labor. Both must be taught to respond to a peculiar new language. Psychological and physical instruction of containment must be created for both. We hold the above cardinals as truths to be self-evident based upon the following discourse concerning the economics of breaking and tying the horse and the nigger together, all inclusive of the 6 principles laid down. All principles must be employed for the orderly good of the nation. Accordingly, both a wild horse and a wild or natural nigger is dangerous even if captured, for they will have the tendency to see their customary freedom, and in doing so might kill you in your sleep. You cannot rest. They sleep while you are awake and are awake while you are asleep. They are dangerous near the family house, and it is required too much labor to watch them away from the house. Above all, you cannot get them to work in this natural state. Hence, both the horse and nigger must be broken. That is to break them from one form of mental life to another. Keep the body and take the mind. In other words, break the will to resist. That in and of itself, when you think about it, it's like they literally pinned a man to an animal to desensitize him from realizing that he's still, in fact, human. Slowly breaking that horse down next to that man made it to where that man was no longer a man but a beast. Now, the breakage process is the same for the horse and the nigger, only slightly varying in degrees. But as we said before, you must keep your eye focused on the offspring of the horse and the nigger. A brief discourse in offspring development will shed light on the key to sound economic principles. Pay little attention to the generation of original breaking, but concentrate on future generations. Therefore, if you break the female, she will deliver it up to you, for her normal female protective tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process. For example, take the case of the wild stud, a female horse, and an already infant horse, and compare the breaking process with toe nigger males in their natural state, a pregnant nigger woman and her infant offspring. Take the stud horse back. Break him for limited containment. Completely break the female horse until she becomes very gentle, whereas you or anybody can ride her in comfort. Breed the mare and the stud until you have the desired offspring. Then you can turn the stud to freedom until you need him again. Train the female horse whereby she will eat out of your hand, and she will train the infant horse to eat out of your hand also. What's interesting about that, what I just pictured as far as like with the breaking of the female to where you allow anyone to ride her, is like how girls and women could possibly go through like abuse at a very young age, to where when they get older, eventually they're overly sexually active, to where then they're deemed like a whore and things like that. And it's not even like that. It's because of the abuse they endured, that they don't know any better how to differentiate between like, hey, this person actually cares for me and this person actually, this, that, and the third. It's actually really interesting to see the patterns and the psychological ways by which we place upon one another through these tactics that are shared in this letter. Then it says, when it comes to breaking the uncivilized nigger, use the same process but vary the degree and step up the pressure so as to do a complete reversal of the mind. Take the meanest and most restless nigger, strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining male niggers, the female and the nigger infant, tar and feather him, tie each leg to a different horse faced in opposite directions, set him afire, and beat both horses to pull him apart in front of the remaining niggers. The next step is to take a bullwhip and beat both the remaining nigger male to the point of death in front of the female and the infant. Don't kill him, but put the fear of God in him, for he can be useful for future breeding. So they do all this stuff to this man, right? Like, he's this man that they're explaining, they've done a number on him and still want to use him to help bear children. Do you not think that there's anyone in today's world that could have come from this man right here, that he's so mentally battered, broken, and abused? The programming in his DNA, the genetics are so altered and faulty and destroyed, and he's still supposed to go breeding after being abused like that. Like, he's being treated way less than an animal at this point, and he's having children still. That's just something to think about. Moving on to the processing of breaking the African woman, take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Test her in every way, because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any sort of resistance and submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract that last bit out of her. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so you spoil good economics. So again, we're products. They are seen as product, not as human beings. So to them, that's money going out the window by mistreating another human being. When in complete submission, she will train her offspring in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, we shall go deeper into this area of the subject matter concerning what we have produced here in this breaking of the female Negro. We have reversed the relationships. In her natural uncivilized state, she would have a, and again, that's uncivilized. Her natural way is uncivilized. How? State she would have a strong dependency on the uncivilized Negro male, and she would have a limited protective dependency toward her independent male offspring, and would raise offspring to be dependent like her. Nature had provided for this type of balance. We reverse nature by burning and pulling one civilized Negro apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence. So again, the woman is seeing the man be demasculated. He's being emasculated. He's being torn down and broken down into this nothingness. And then she's supposed to go and have children. And she has to go and look at, she could possibly have been pregnant by this one that's being beaten and abused and tortured while carrying his child. You don't understand that you don't see that there's some sort of psychological deterioration there. There's some sort of psychological propaganda being placed within that seed that she's carrying, or that she could end up having with another one. Just a moment. Oh shoot, sorry, they distracted me. Okay, so we're going deeper into it. It says, by her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from her psychological dependent state to a frozen independent state. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reversed roles, meaning the boy will now operate from a feminine state, and the girl will operate now from a masculine state. See a pattern? The ordeal caused her to move from. Come on, I'm trying to not overdo. For fear of the young male's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. So now you have it where these men, like even today, having conversation with certain people, it's like, what are you, how are you so fit? You're physically capable, but then like the conversation mentally, some people are just not there entirely. And I'm not going to pretend like I've always been there mentally. It took a lot for me to get to a certain point, and that's just like with anyone else. You have to put in the work. You have to understand yourself. You have to actually look at the world and put value into all of human life in order to understand what it is and where it is we were, where it is we are, and where it is we are headed, while trying to deprogram certain forms and things of that nature. Okay, I keep getting disturbed, so I'm gonna try to hurry up now, guys. Just a moment. All right, so I kind of lost my train of thought there, but again, where were we at? Okay, so now we're at, what have you got? You've got the Negro woman out front and the Negro man behind and scared. This is a perfect situation for sound sleep and sound sleep and soundly for out of frozen fear that his woman stands guard for us. He cannot get past her early infant slave molding process. He is a good tool, not ready to be tied to the horse at a tender age. By the time the Negro boy reaches the age 16, he is soundly broken in and ready for a long life of sound and efficient work and the production of a unit of good labor force. It's just crazy because anyone who's read this, I'm not sure. I would love to hear from anyone who's read this, but specifically men. If you've read the Willie Lynch letters, and you've developed your own understanding of this and have applied it, and you're able to kind of shed some light on it, please do. I would love it. If you can't shed light here on YouTube and you want to respond in the comment section on my Instagram, please do so. I would love to hear your thoughts. It kind of cut off like the words on the top up here, so I can't really read. what that says. We show what we mean by example. We breed 2 Negro males with 2 Negro females. Then we take the Negro males away from them and keep them moving and working. Say the Negro female bears a Negro female and the other bears a Negro male. I don't know why I pronounced that word like that. I just realized. Both females, being without influence of the male image, frozen with an independent psychology, will raise their offspring into reverse positions. The one with the female offspring will teach her to be like her, independent, negotiable. We negotiate with her, through her, by her, and negotiate her at will. The one with the... Tell me how, you guys, like, literally I can see, like, in pinpoint, just even now, like, even, like, women in high power positions, how they're doing all of the talking for us. They're the ones who, they're more, especially as a black woman in high energy, high male-dominant industries. She's up there negotiating and trying to foster these connections for us, just like this here, in hopes of not only is she like having to sell herself constantly in these spaces, but she's also having to, anytime she's putting in work, she's literally imaging any of the faults that within her makeup, from the way that she was raised, any experiences she has as a teenager, and all of those things. It's no different than this experience here. It's just now it's modern, so it's dressed up, it's bedazzled, it's pretty now to be a slave. It's pretty to be a slave, pretty much, is what I'm getting at. The one with the male offspring, she being frozen with conscious fear for his life, will raise him to be mentally dependent and weak, but physically strong. In other words, body over mind. Now, in a few years, when these two offspring become fertile for early reproduction, and they mean early reproduction, as soon as they're able, we will mate and breed them and continue the cycle. This is good, sound, and long-range comprehensive planning. It's no different than now. You have kids having kids, people getting together at such a young age, and it's repeating this cycle of like where there's codependency and fear-based tactics and maneuvers and things like that, simply because there's so much uncertainty of what's going on. Okay, so this is warning of possible interloping negatives. Earlier we talked about the non-economic good of the horse in the wild, and in their wild or natural state. We talked about the principle of breaking and tying them together for orderly production. Furthermore, we talked about paying particular attention to the female savage. So now we went from being to savages and her offspring for orderly future planning. Then more recently we stated that by reversing the positions of the male and the female savages, we have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its axis forever, unless phenomenon occurred and reshifted the positions of the male and female savages. Our experts warned us about the possibility of this phenomenon occurring, for they say that the mind has a strong drive to correct and recorrect itself over a period of time. If it can touch some substantial original historical base, and they advise us that the best way to deal with this phenomenon is to shave off the brute's mental history and create a multiplicity of phenomenon or illusions so that each illusion will twirl in its own orbit. Freak on, people. Golly. It makes me so, it's like, I'm flustered. It makes me so frustrated because it's like, dude, I'm like, I can't be the only one who sees this. Like, come on now. And it says something akin to floating ball in a vacuum. This creation of multiplicity of phenomenon or illusions entails the principles of crossbreeding and the crossbreeding the Negro and the horse, as we stated above, the purpose of which is to create diversified divisions of labor, the result of which is the severance of the points of original beings for each spheric illusion, since we feel that the subject matter may get more complicated as we proceed in laying down our economic plan concerning the purpose, reason, and effect of crossbreeding horses and niggers. What the heck? We shall lay down, because why is, and reading that again, I'm like, are they saying bestiality? Like, what the heck? We shall lay down the following definitional terms for future generations. Orbiting cycle means a thing turning in a given pattern. Axis means upon which or around which a body turns. Phenomena means something beyond ordinary concept and inspires awe and wonder. Multiplicity means a great number. A sphere means a globe. Crossbreeding a horse means taking a horse and breeding it with an ass. And some of the way that the words are written is throwing me off, so that's why I'm like stuttering a bit on here, sorry. And because it says breeding it with an ass, and get a dumb backward ass. Long-headed mule that is not reproductive nor productive by itself. Crossbreeding niggers means taking so many drops of good white blood and putting them into as many nigger women as possible, varying the drops by the various tones that you want, and then letting them breed with each other until the circle of colors appear as you desired. What means is this? Put the niggers and the horse in the breeding pot, mix some asses and some good white blood, and what do you get? You get multiplicity of colors of ass backwards, unusual niggers running tied to backward ass long-handed mules, the one productive of itself, the other sterile, meaning that's why because they're manipulating the genetics, some are having children and some are not, that are barren. We keep we may replace the mule for another tool, both nigger and mule tied to each other, neither knowing where the other came from and neither reproductive for itself nor without each other. Okay, I'm gonna stop there because, and this says 1712. This is the editor's notes from 1712. So again, why I'm sharing this with you guys is, at the end of the day, if you not only see that they were literally not only manipulating the genetics of our ancestors, so then they're points a huge question. They're like intentionally manipulating the genetics on purpose to have some where they're like really messed up mentally, even more so. But then you have it where we, again, in the modern time, a lot of that stuff is still here. It's still very much present. It's just now we are doing it to each other. We are still carrying on this operating system, this programming, in a different format where you don't even know that we're doing it to one another. Where the men are so torn up and abused that they don't fully know how to get back to themselves. They're so stirred up on the inside. Then you have it where the women are overly independent, or hyper independent. Like, it's good to be independent. There's a fine line between having balance within your independence and taking it to an extreme where you feel like you have to do everything because out of fear. And then as far as the men go, being so heavily guarded and shooken up and not knowing how to turn to one another or turn to their women because of the simple fact that they're, again, so stirred up and confused. And then you also have it where mothers are beating their children to get them to stay in line in certain ways, where that stuff didn't go anywhere. It's still very, very much present. And until we can actually take a time to flip things around and look at them, there's nothing we can do. The best thing we can do right now is to get informed. I don't care who you are, what background you're from, get informed. If you haven't taken the time to study, start going as far back as you can, starting with your own people, understanding their history, their cultures, the truth, not just what you think might be true or what's being spat out to you as something true. Like that can be maybe a trickle from the iceberg. You have to go and do the work yourself And we'll dive into it a bit more. My space is running out, so I'm going to try to cut this here. I hope that this makes sense and that you're seeing the pattern. If you do, please subscribe, like the video so that we are able to stay connected. I will go ahead and carry on into a part 3. It will be still an emotional part of the emotional intelligence series, but I will be carrying a different title now. I thank you all so much. Or actually, no, we gonna keep it running. Someone tell me to hurry up and nip that. So we still in this focusing on the reality of our condition, one step at a time. This was unlearning the programming within ourselves and each other. I want to send you all lots of love and balance. And then we'll see you in our next session. Wholinis.